Now, what we're going to be discussing today, what you're going to see, is kind of a continuation of what we were talking about last week. Can anybody tell me last week, why is it that most people turn to drugs? Why do they turn to drugs to feel good? Does anybody remember? No, but why? What do they not understand? Whose love? There we go. They don't understand who they are in Christ. They do not understand their identity. Now, there is a story in the Bible. Lots of stories in the Bible talk about identity, who you are with, who you identify with, all that stuff. But there's one that really covers the two categories people can fall into in terms of accepting God's love for us. And that's the prodigal son. And when in talking about identity, we're talking about two different ways you can handle identity. Now, those of us who are Christians, those of us who've been at this school for a while, those of us who know anything about Jesus, do we have to work for him to love us? No. Now, the world will tell us we do. Heck, the law tells us that we do. But Jesus' love, why his love is so different from every other religion out there, is that we do not have to earn it. But sometimes our little human brains can get stuck in that mindset. Sometimes, even though we understand God's love and we know it and we see it, we think that we still have to earn it. Then you have the other side. Understand God's love, experience God's love, know about God's love, but then go, nah, not for me. I don't want it. And so we have those two categories, people who have to earn it, who think they have to earn it, or people who just straight up reject it. Now, in the prodigal son, the biblical story goes like this, and it doesn't give us a whole lot of detail. But it starts with, there's a man who had two sons. And one of his sons asked for his inheritance early, and the father said, great, you can have it. Now, for us, that doesn't communicate a whole lot. Well, we got to unpack that. We got to see what's going on inside. We got to make it for our modern audience. So, Kate and Adriana and Wyatt, could you guys come out here, please? Yeah, you can cheer for them. So the reason why I asked them specifically, they are the three leads of this play. And they have had to do some serious digging into the characters that we are going to discuss today and into these people that were told in this parable. Now, I think we're just going to go down the line. Adriana, can you explain who you are in the play and who you represent in the parable, and what kind of Christian you represent?
Everything perfect for her dad, and she just stresses herself over the tiniest details instead of trusting that her father is capable of handling things on his own. And he provides for us as well.
And I play James, the younger brother, who, although he has a life set out for him, made by his father, he still decides that he wants to take his own path. He thinks he's capable of doing everything on his own and that he doesn't need anyone to set anything out for him. And that's where he's wrong.
And then, of course, I play the father in the story who represents God. And basically, I'm just here to kind of guide these people along. I'm here to accept James and here to comfort Sarah. And then also in the actual story in the Bible, he still, you can kind of hear that he talks down both of his kids, whether, he lets them out.
Right, he calms them down, and he talks them down, not talks down to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what you said. But these are modern-day versions of what we could consider the prodigal son. As we said, Wyatt represents the father, who in this story, because again, Jesus was having to communicate huge concepts to little human brains. Remember, Jesus, when he was here, was 100% man and 100% God. So have you ever tried to explain math to a kindergartner, and they look at you? Maybe that's how you feel in math all the time. That's kind of how I felt. But imagine being in the role of the teacher, having to communicate these fundamental things with an audience who kind of goes all the time. So he would tell parables. And this story, the father represents God. And we have a lot of drama between the younger son and the older son, but the father is the one to pay attention to. It's how God reacts to us that is the show stealer. But here, now we're putting it in a modern setting. Let's give you a little bit of backstory before we get into the meat of this. So, story goes, John over here met his wife. They got married. They founded a restaurant. Very successful, a staple of their community, and they raised their 2 twin children. Just pretend they're 2 twin children, James and Sarah. Raised them in the restaurant, in the confines of the restaurant, in the safety, understanding that this was their world, this is where it was safe, and provided basically everything they could have wanted. When James and Sarah were about 12, their mother unfortunately passes away from cancer, but while she leaves a hole in their personal life and in their family dynamic, she also left behind a pretty decent life insurance policy that each of them get access to when they turn 21. So, what we're going to show you is just a little scene, a little sense of what daily life can be. Because sometimes we can be going through life. We can be moving along. Everything's fine. Everything is peaceful. Everything is at peace. And we'll still find stuff to complain about. All those things that we used to recognize as actual blessings from God just get annoying. Oh, I don't want to have to work for this anymore. I don't want to have to struggle. I don't want to have to do this. God, why don't I have everything that I want? God, why can't things be the way that I want them to be? And you'll notice in this scene, as they're surrounded by people who are happy, involved, engaged, filling their life with joy and all those things, Sarah finds a way to be stressed out, because that's what she's good at. And James finds a way to not care. Doesn't come to work early, doesn't do any of that, because it's just not doing it for either of them. So go ahead and get into your positions. I will give you guys a fourth wall break disclaimer. We're skipping ahead in the track, and I forgot to reset it, so I might have to listen to some music for just a sec. Are we all okay with that? Yeah? Okay. No? Well, too bad. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I was there. Who would have thought? And then let's make sure that it is connected to the Bluetooth. It is connected to the Bluetooth. Okay. So, you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Hi, how many? Right over there. So good to see you. How many? Right over there. How many?
We were made to grow and change and recognize that love is the higher power that keeps us strong. It's every hour worth the pain, the stress, and then we begin to find the joy and perfectly perfect things you are created to focus on blessings and to understand. Life is full of surprises, a brand new dawn, a thief sunrises. Proof enough that we were made to grow and change, to recognize that love is the higher power that keeps us strong, makes every hour worth the pain, the stress, and then we begin to find the joy again.
You guys can clap for them. It's okay. Yeah. All right, you guys may go. So if you were paying attention, you saw that they're both pretty good at their jobs. James is very good at talking to people. He's very capable as a waiter. Sarah is very good at managing things, but, sometimes that's not always enough for them. Now, if you guys can come back out, please. Wyatt is going to explain what happens next in this story. If you've read the Bible, you understand. But what happens next?
Okay, so basically, my kids are of age. It's going to be their 21st birthdays next weekend. And they'll be able to inherit their mom's life insurance policy, get their money, and me, as a representation of God and everything, you can stand over there, but I would be, as like a God, well, not as a God, but as God, you would he would want you guys to make the wise decisions and the characters to make the wise decisions, and that's what happens in the parable too. Like, he understands the choices you're going to make, but those are the choices that are going to happen.
And then how does Sarah plan on using this money?
Sarah plans to use the money that she has acquired now to, on her own, pay for her tuition at Harvard. She basically decides that I don't want to burden my father with having to pay for such an extravagant and expensive school, not taking into consideration that providing for herself is not her responsibility, it is her dad's, and she has the love that she's already seems that she needs to work for. And even in this story, she made her brother promise to stay behind while she leaves because she wants everything to be perfect for her dad before she goes.
And then how does James plan on spending this money?
Well, James is going to use this money as an opportunity to leave his family. He decides that, you know what? I know I promised you that I would stay and that I would be here because you were gone. Nah, I think I got this. I'm going to do this on my own. And that is basically what his plan is. I mean, the love that his family has, his genuine friends, this good life that he's built for himself, that his father has built, that he's practiced on, is just, it's not enough.
Right, and so we have here an issue. Now, in the Bible, we get two sentences. There was a man who had two sons. One of his sons asked for his inheritance early, and the father gave it to him. We get none of the cultural context that the people at the time would have understood. Nowadays, for a modern audience, inheritance could be something like money. But a lot of times, when this story happened in ancient Israel, it wasn't money, it was property. It was, here are the lands that I have spent my life tilling and planting. Here are the crops that I've spent my life making sure are good for you. Here are the houses that I've built. Here is my legacy of providing for you and for your future generations. I'm going to leave that to you when I'm gone so somebody can still take care of you even when I'm not here. And so typically, you would wait until the father died to deal with the inheritance because asking for it early would be extremely rude and extremely disrespectful. And if that were to happen, it would have kind of torn the family apart. Now, we don't get that in the Bible. But if you can imagine the younger son walking up to the father and saying, I want my inheritance now, was very similar to saying, I wish you were dead. You're holding me back from living my life. I don't care that you've spent your life trying to provide for me. I don't care that you have made this life that I can take over and use to provide for my children. No, I don't want any of that. I want us to take it and spend it all on me. And some of you might be sitting there asking the question that I am asking myself, why on earth, if that's what that means, why did the father say yes? And we'll discuss that in a little bit, but to give you a taste of what damage that would have caused, we'll see what that looked like.
Monica's mom called on her way out, wishing us both a happy birthday.
Of course she did. We love Rosa.
We do. You know, as far as extremely tame 21st birthdays go, that wasn't too bad.
Just goes to show you that we don't need wild, drunken 21st parties to have fun.
We think. I'm joking.
You better be.
So, where did Dad go?
Oh, he'll be back in a sec. He just went to take out the trash. I'm kind of nervous. This is such a big deal. I hope he takes it well.
Yeah, me too.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I have news for Dad too.
Okay.
I'm doing my senior year at Johnson University.
Very funny, James.
I'm not being funny.
I'll admit, this is pretty convincing. Do me a favor.
Laugh all you want, but it's all set. I leave tomorrow.
What? What about our plan?
Well, sometimes plans just change.
Not these ones. James, we talked about this. We talked about this a year ago. We agreed that you would finish up at State so that I could go to Harvard. so that we wouldn't both be leaving at the same time. You know that's why I graduated a year early. That's why I've been saving this whole time.
It'll be fine. We can both go.
No, we can't. You were going to take my place as manager. Finding a new server is tricky, but finding a new manager
It's totally doable. We'll just have to tell him tonight.
Tell him that his 2 children and best workers are up and leaving him alone?
It'll be fine. I don't get why you're freaking out.
Because you promised. Because you said you'd stay with him and help him. I mean, why do you even want to go to Johnson anyways? How are you going to pay for some big fancy? That's what you're using Mom's money for?
Yeah, why not? She wanted us to be happy. Dad wants us to be happy. I'm going to use this money to finally be happy.
James, what are you talking about? How are you going to go blow all of Mom's money on 1 year
I'm
of
not going
college?
to blow all of it. I'm going to use it. I'll up my game, get my business degree, and then explore my options.
Explore your options. Whatever happened to getting your degree so you could take over the restaurant? Or has that changed too?
You know what? Maybe it has. Why should I have to spend my life here in this little town? I bet I can get a real career in a big city. Maybe even make some real money instead of this. Look, there's more to life than just college and work and hanging out with the same old friends. This is my chance to finally do something different, to have some fun while I'm young, to experience what every other kid besides us gets to experience when they go off to college. Not this lame commuting crap, still living in our parents' apartment.
I can't believe this. After everything we planned and now it's not good enough?
You're one to talk. You're the one running off to Harvard.
That's not fair. Dad's known all along that I don't want the restaurant. And besides, I'm not leaving. I'm coming back to set up close by.
Whatever. I'm glad you're happy and Dad's happy here, but I'm not. I don't want to be stuck here my entire life.
Oh, right, because this is all about you.
Yes, Sarah. It cannot always be about you, and it can't be about Dad, and it can't be about Mom. She's been dead for 10 years now. I mean, look at this apron. It's like a shrine. Why shouldn't this money be about me? Maybe it's time we all moved on.
What's going on?
James was just telling me his plans for Mom's money. Go on. Tell Dad what your grand plans are. Tell Dad how you're not happy here. Tell Dad how we're not enough for you.
James, what is she talking about?
I'm doing my senior year at Johnson. I want out of here. I want a normal life, and Mom's money is giving me that opportunity.
Wait, so you've already applied?
Yes, Dad. Applied, accepted. I have a place to live, and I'm leaving tomorrow. Early.
Wow, I never expected my own son to leave without giving me his 2 weeks.
Seriously? You could wait tables or something until you figure it out.
James, the restaurant is the least of my concerns
Oh,
right
but
now.
how nice of you to figure that out for him.
It's okay, Sarah. Are you sure you know what you're doing? I really wish you would have talked to me about it.
Why? You think I'm not capable of making good decisions? Because I'm not my perfect sister and can't be trusted with my own life? Yes, this is what I want to... Yes, this is what I want to do. God, this is exactly why I'm leaving. I'm sick of this town. I'm sick of this stupid restaurant. I'm sick of having to stay here because my mom died. And I'm sick of you keeping me from living my life. Just because you gave up on your life when Mom died does not mean that I have to.
Well, it's your money, and it's your life. But it might not work out as well as you think. Will you at least check in maybe once a week? And you'll come home for Christmas.
Yeah, just so you can tell me how to live my life again? Forget it. Don't even bother checking in on me. I'll get my own phone. I think I'd rather die than see this place again.
It would serve him right.
That's probably a little closer to what that would have gone like. And as you notice, John just took it. I heard some of you after Caden said, and Caden and Adriana, you guys can come back out. After Caden said, after James said, just because you gave up on your life when Mom died doesn't mean I have to. I heard some of you. If he was my kid, if he was one of your friends, maybe a pop, maybe at least something. But John is not like us. But let's talk. Adriana, tell us how Sarah decides to handle this.
She decides to take this extremely personally, and she decides to manipulate things behind the scenes because she now doesn't trust her father even more, since she didn't handle James how she would have. So now, instead of relying on her father for comfort and stability, she just decides to bottle it up and let it rot somewhere in a little dinky corner.
Right. Sometimes in life, stuff happens. And that can shake our trust a little, maybe a lot. And Sarah, from the perspective of, I have to earn this, I have to control this, I have to make everything perfect, because her father did not handle the situation the way she thought, she's going to handle it from now on. But what that does is it makes her work harder. It makes her even more stressed out. And it starts to take a toll on her. And now, interestingly enough, Wyatt, can you explain why John just taking it was not actually a moment of weakness?
Well, God is so awesome, and, it's really cool that we're able to have a relationship where we can throw anything at him, and then he just won't, take us off the face of the earth because we just disrespected the most powerful being in the universe and all of everything. But he has love and compassion, and he has the knowledge of what you're going to do, and he knows what you're going to do, and he still accepts you for who you are, even though you do it. And he wants you to make the right choice, but sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes you don't. And, yeah.
Even if our choices break his heart. God's never angry with us, and he's never disappointed, even if we feel like we deserve it. But that's where your story ends for now. So thank you very much. You guys can go. Yeah, you guys can give him a round of applause. But, of course, we got to know what happens. What did the younger brother get up to once he made that devastating exit? And Caden's going to fill us in on what happens next.
Well, after rejecting his father's wishes, James finally seems to get everything he wants. Money, popular friends, parties, a good time. But even as he's getting everything he wanted, he's miserable. He's manipulated and participating in things he never thought he would. His new friends are making him succumb to peer pressure. And we talked about that a lot, indulging in alcohol, parties. And Derek here sees him as new prey. And although the world is always asking what's our price, it's our job to maintain that strong will and know what we want. So, all right, what's to do? Pitch it to me.
Pitch it to me, says. All right, listen up, new guy. Take a look around this room. Now tell me what you see. This suit is shirt and her shoes. They're speaking volumes to me. It's sitting there in plain sight. Clear as an open book. Tell you what is left to lose, right? If you just know where to look, it's what we have in common. Even if we just met, the writing on the wall. And do you get it?
No.
Come on, new guy. Gotta look at things with new eyes. It's in the fabric of our being. Just learn to recognize exactly what you're seeing. Take a hint and read the signs. One of everything on this earth. Those little numbers and lines will tell you what it is worth. It's like a warning label before it goes in the back. Just spend if you're able. Please tell me you get it.
A price tag.
Very good, new guy. That'll take you higher, higher. Fame and success, I'll get you both in excess. Higher, higher. Through fortune and vice, just one question. What's your price? What's your price? Now when you rise to the top, there's things you need to let go. More roads of virtue stop. Just learn to stick to the slow. Look out for number one. The rest will fall in place. Do what you want and then if you can keep up the pace. This is how the grace have done it. But must the best engage. Just be a man and chug it. Maybe you'll like to take it higher, higher. Fame and success, I'll get you both in excess. Higher, higher. Through fortune and vice, just one question. What's your price? What's your price? Alright, I think it's about time to take a seat. We're gonna break it down for you. Ladies?
Fame and success, fortune and vice, all in excess. What is your price? Fame and success, fortune and vice, all in excess. What is your fame and success, fortune and vice, all in
Take a look around this room and tell me what do you see? Those numbers shine. Say speak the volume to me, baby. Come on. One more. Keep it going. All right. Higher, higher. Fame and success, I'll get you both in excess. Higher, higher. Fortune and vice, just one question. What's your price? What's your price? What's your price? What's your price? What's your price?
Thank you very much. You guys may go hang out in the prayer room. Well, that is where our La Familia story ends for today. But it is not where the Bible story ends. If you would like to see how that story ends, you may come tomorrow night at 7 o'clock or Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. But even after that, even after being in an environment, obviously you saw him being pushed around, shoved into things, carried, moved, manipulated. The younger brother does not take the hint. In fact, he doubles down. Do you guys know what doubles down means? Go even harder. I'm going to do it twice. I'm so convinced that this is the right way that I'm going to do it twice. I'm going to do it twice as much. To the point where eventually, because he's not actually spending it wisely, he's not doing things that he's supposed to with it, what do you think happens to the younger brother's money? Runs out. He gambles, spends, wastes every cent of what his father spent his whole life preparing for him. Now, of course, because he needed somewhere different, he goes out into a whole new city, a new town, a new land, and so he has no connections, no job, and no one to fall back on. And then to make matters worse, that land, all of a sudden, is struck by a famine. Now, famine is an interesting term for us because what that basically means is no food. Now, in America, we don't know what that's like. The closest we came might have been in March of 2020 when we didn't know if we were going to be able to buy toilet paper. But we're talking about no food. And all of us at the slightest inconvenience, or maybe because we haven't had a snack in 2 hours, have said the phrase, "I'm starving." But starvation is actually a very, very unpleasant and slow way to die. Your body's not getting the nutrients it needs from outside, so it starts to eat itself, basically. And that's not a fun way to go. And so the younger brother finds himself on the brink of starvation. And he finally goes to a farmer, and it says he has to persuade the farmer to hire him, which means he has to beg for this job. Talk about rejection. Remember, he was in a very well-established position. He was already the boss of several people, and he was going to be even higher. But he left that behind, and now he has to beg for a job. And the farmer says, the only job I can think of is giving you the job of feeding pigs. Now, pigs, while they may be delicious if cooked properly in real life, are disgusting. If you've ever seen them, they just wallow around in mud. They will eat anything. And what normally you feed pigs, of course now we have like feed and stuff like that, but at the time they ate anything. So that meant all of the leftovers that you scrape off of your plate into the trash can, all, like eggshells, potato peels, all of that stuff that just kind of sits at the bottom of your trash can, that's what pigs would eat. And they ate it with no complaints. Now, they did not feed the younger son, to the point where while he's feeding the pigs this disgusting mixture, he starts to think, that's looking pretty good. And unfortunately, like life, when people decide to do that, when people decide to make their own way, when people decide to try to forge their own identity rather than relying on the one that God says we are, it's a matter of pride. And it is very difficult for pride people to see the error in their ways. A lot of times it takes an extreme. When we were talking about drug usage last week, basically there are two ways you stop taking drugs. You either hopefully come to your senses and realize the damage that you've already done to yourself and spend the rest of your life trying to fix it, or you just die. But in this case, that light bulb moment, that come to Jesus moment, was when he was looking at week-old food and saying, you know what, that looks pretty good. And all of a sudden, he remembers, even the servants, even the guys at the bottommost chain who worked in my father's house had extra food. Now notice he didn't think back to when he was running the household. He's already kind of lowered himself from that position. But all at once he gets it. And it's really important because it says in the Bible that he says, I need to go to my father and say, I have sinned against both heaven and you. I did not just disrespect you, I disrespected God. And beg for a position as a servant. Now, everybody in here has experienced what it feels like to be humbled. It's not a fun experience. Whether it's in front of your class, whether it's in front of your classmates, whether it's at home in front of your family. It's never a fun experience to get humbled, but this dude has been humbled by all of his own choices. And so he says, you know what, there's nowhere else to go. I've got to go back. Now, does he know that he could go all the way back and have his dad slam the door in his face? Yeah. Does he know that if he goes back, that means that his entire family and everybody who lives in that house has the ability to laugh at him, to make fun of him, to ridicule him for his stupid decisions? Yeah. Does he know that there might not be a place for him? Yeah. But he's worked himself out of every other option and decides to go back. So he returned home to his father. And this is the part that blew my mind, and it still blows my mind. And it says, while he was still a long way off, like down the driveway, down the street, long way off, it said his father saw him coming. Now, what does that mean? Let's use some critical thinking. Where did his father have to be to see him coming a long way off? Audience participation. Could he see that from his bedroom? Could he see that from the living room while watching TV? No, where did he have to be? He had to be outside. Why would he be outside? He's looking for him, waiting for him. Even after his son left like that, even after his son insulted him, disrespected him, and then abandoned his position, the father was actively waiting for him to come back. That is the grace of God. No matter what we do, no matter how bad our choices, no matter how much we mess up, and we're gonna, he's never sitting on his throne judging. He's never rolling his eyes at us. He never says, yeah, you'd better beg after what you did. Never. He's outside. He's out front. He's sitting at the window. He's looking, waiting for you to come back. And when he came back, it says, filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son tried to apologize. He said, Father, I have sinned against both you and heaven, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Is that true? What he just said, according to human standards, is that true? Absolutely. And our boy has done a lot of growing to get to that place. And I love this. The father literally does not acknowledge that. He said, but his father said to the servants, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger. Get sandals for his feet. That calf that we've been slowly getting fat enough to where we can eat it, kill it now. Now is the time. We're going to celebrate. Where was the I told you so in that? Nowhere. Where was the, now son, this is why we do? Nowhere. All he cared about was that his son was home. And it says, for this son of mine was dead to me. Does that mean that the father was like, yeah, you go, you spend all that money, you make those choices, you do you live your truth? No. When he was gone, he was dead to him. He can't support that. Well, when he came back, my son who was dead is alive again. He was lost, but now he was found. And our boy, the younger brother, has learned enough to basically just shut up and accept it. From a place of humility. But now you'll be like, okay, Miss Kreitz, what about the older brother? Here we go. Now the older brother came in from working in the fields, because that's what the older brother does. And sees that there's this giant party being thrown for his little brother who ran off. And is furious. He refuses to go inside. And the father comes out and starts begging him, please come in. Celebrate with us. Your brother was dead, and now he's alive again. And the older brother says this to his father, all these years I've slaved for you, and never once have I refused to do anything you've told me to do. How does the older brother view his father? Like a slave master. Not as a loving, caring figure, but as somebody who only gives orders. No wonder he thinks he has to earn everything. And all in that time, you never gave me even one party. You never set this up for me. I never got that treatment, and I have worked, essentially, my butt off for you. And this is the crazy part. Instead of God snapping, going, okay, stop it, knock it off, what he says is, the father says, look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is already yours. Yeah, you've been working, but everything I have is already yours. All you had to do was reach out and take it. That was it. You didn't have to polish yourself up. So many times in life we think, oh, okay, I'll be a Christian when I fix this. Oh, I'll be a Christian when I can do this. Or, oh, I don't want to do Christianity. It's just a bunch of rules, and then I have to follow it, and then God is going to be mad at me. We think we have to do it ourselves. No, I don't need help. I'm fine. I don't want to bother God. I don't want to mess with, I don't want to bug him. We view him as a human. And he's not. Don't you know that God's number one priority in the entire universe is you? And you might say, well, Miss Kreitz, that doesn't really work because there's so many people. Yeah, well, buddy, he's infinite. He's big enough to where he can spend all of your life focusing only on you. You don't have to earn his love. You don't have to earn his favor. You don't have to earn anything. Just like you don't have to try to work it back after you've messed up. Now, as Christians, as people, we will be both at some point in our lives. We're going to have times when we decide, you know what, I've been doing what God wants me to do for long enough. I'm going to try it myself. And promptly get smacked. Or we're going to start looking at other people. Oh my gosh, they're not this. They're not good enough for that. They don't deserve that. Why is God blessing them? Why shouldn't he bless me? I'm the one who goes to church every Sunday. I'm the one who does blah, 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 blah. We're going to be both. But in both situations, God stays the same. He says, you don't have to do that. My love for you is big enough to cover any and all of your mistakes. And my love for you is enough to carry you through whatever life comes at you. And you don't have to earn it. It says you grow in your walk with God. Don't ever think that you're too far gone. Don't ever think that you just have to keep working. Everything you're looking for in a relationship with God is right in front of you. All you have to do is accept it. Bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about you, to discuss how much you love us. And I thank you for each and every one of your children in this room. And I thank you that they are here on purpose, that they have a reason to be here. And that you love them more than anything they can possibly imagine, whether they feel like they deserve it or not. And I ask a prayer of blessing over them, that they get through the rest of this week, so that we can do it all over again next week. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. You guys may go.